There's our lovely sheepy. Hello there, gorgeous. Here's a look at the backside of our sheep shed, which is quite an appropriate way of describing it. Let's go have a look. In here is really good stuff. This is licorice for your garden. This gets scooped up with a long-handled spade, put into our little wheelbarrow or trailer, and it's beautiful. The garden thanks us very much. And our little sheep here. You agree also, don't you? Come to see me. Aren't she beautiful? Aren't she beautiful? Yeah. Right. Now here you can see a crop of potatoes. That's just from one plant, and we've never had quite so much success with the potatoes until we put lots of sheep poop into the ground. So without the sheep poop you might just get, seriously, just 1 or 2 potatoes. If the ground has been used before, it'll be depleted of the things it needs. But here you can see a very rich crop. So you put the good stuff in, what the sheep don't want, the cows don't want, it's going to do your garden a lot of good. So that's why it's good if you have an acreage, to have some of that land assigned for sheep. If you have a little house for them, then you've got a ready source of manure. Also chickens, they can provide a great deal of the good stuff. Look at the size of those beauties, eh? That's what you call real sweet potato. Massive. Here's some pumpkins that we grew not so long back. Just harvested them. A great winter crop. I don't know about you, but I love pumpkin soup and roast pumpkin. Beautiful. Have a look at these pumpkins. The Creator loves variety, and so do I. Now you may not have a 5-acre block, but you may have a small backyard, and it's amazing what you can do in a very small amount of space. This small banked up backyard has been terraced to provide a much better working area so that the garden doesn't run down the hill and get washed out. Paths and steps provide easy access to most parts of the terraced gardens, and we can have a look at some of the things growing there. So you don't need a lot of space. You can do quite a lot in a very small area. If you'd like to practice gardening but you don't even have a small backyard, you may have some area outside your window where you can put a few pots and put a few plants just to practice. So it's surprising what can be achieved in a very small space. Now don't be too discouraged if, as I said, you don't have land, because Yahweh says in His Word in Psalms, the earth is the Lord's and all the fullness thereof. So Yahweh provides the things that we need. The only reason that bad guys in the New World Order take over is because of the sin of the house of Israel, the church, because they do not keep Yahweh's commandments. You know, people will be digging gardens in some pretty tough times. Have you ever wondered why these things have to happen? Why do we have to have an economic collapse? Why do we have to have wars and so on and so forth? Well, the reason is in the scriptures. Yahweh has a covenant with Israel, and if we keep our side of the bargain, Yahweh will look after us. But if we continue to break his commandments, then Yahweh has to discipline us. And we'll have a look at Deuteronomy 30 in a minute and see what he says. And I would encourage people to have a read of Deuteronomy, that's the 5th book, chapter 30, and read chapter 28 as well. That's the blessings and the curses of the Torah law. In Deuteronomy 30 we read that Yahweh will look after us if we do what he says. So we have confidence in him for the time period that we're entering into if we keep his commandments. So if we keep covenant, Yahweh will look after us. But if we don't, there comes a time when Yahweh has to judge us. And this is the period that we're going to enter into. So let's have a read of Deuteronomy chapter 30. Right, we'll have a look at Deuteronomy chapter 30 using Interlinear Scripture Analyzer. This is the free software from scriptureforall.org. We'll just select the chapter, Deuteronomy 30, Deuteronomy or Devarim 31. V'haya ki yavo'u elecha kol hadevarim ha'alei habracha v'ha'kelelah asher natati lefnecha v'hashivata el levavecha v'kol hagoyim asher hadichecha Yahweh Elohecha shama. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Elohim hath driven thee, and thou shalt return unto Yahweh thy Elohim, and shall obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahweh thy Elohim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Yahweh thy Elohim hath scattered thee. So Yahweh promises to return us to the land of Israel when we return to him. And in this coming world war and economic collapse and pestilence and disease which is coming, Yahweh will look after us if we first keep his commandments. So we don't need to worry about what the New World Order is doing and all this sort of thing. All these things have to happen. But the reason that they are able to happen is because there's sin in the camp, because we have broken covenant. So we need to keep his commandments. Yeshua said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And he's the captain of the armies of heaven. He's Yahweh's son, eternal son. So, and the Mashiach. So we need to listen to him. So to summarize then, we need to come out of the world system, and that's not going to be too much of a problem because the system is actually creaking at the seams. It's falling apart. So Yahweh has his hand in all of this, and it's only up to us to follow Yeshua and to be sensitive when Yahweh is actually calling us in a different direction. We need to study and keep his word. We need to learn Hebrew and Torah as much, of course, as we are able. And we need to dig a garden, and we need to learn to share with one another. You know, I don't really care what the economy is doing. And I don't really worry too much about natural disasters, pestilence, terrorism, the New World Order, World War III, famine, or even aliens. You know, I'm not worried about any of that sort of stuff. I know that all sorts of things will happen. But the main thing for me is that we do what our Father commands. Now, we shouldn't be worried about such things, but we should bring all things to the Father in prayer, and we should allow him to guide us. And he often guides us in ways that are not our ways. and He has thoughts that are not our thoughts. And so sometimes we have to put away our plans and let Him lead us to where He wants us to be, and to what He wants us to do, and to what He wants to teach us. So I hope that's been a blessing to you. In future talks, I'd like to bring to your attention matters that are of importance to believers in Yeshua HaMashiach, those that follow the New Testament, Brit HaChadash, and keep the Torah of Moshe, the biblical feasts, and the laws that Moses described in the first 5 books of the Bible, in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. We're living in very, very difficult and strange days with a great deal of prophetic significance. So I hope to enlighten you with things that we need to know for these coming awesome days. Well, that's all we have time for today, folks. In the meantime, until next time, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. And in Hebrew, V'yevarechecha Yahweh v'yishmerecha, Ya'ir Yahweh p'nayav elecha v'yechanecha, Yisa Yahweh p'nayav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. And Yahweh's face that shines upon us is Yeshua, the Mashiach. He said, "He who has seen me has seen the Father." So if we're praying for Yahweh to show us His face, we're really praying to meet the Mashiach, Yeshua.